Welcome to USA Global TV and Radio, where our mission is to provide education, entertainment, hope, and inspiration. USA Global TV and Radio connects you with experts and audiences all around the world every single day to help you succeed in business and to live a richer life. Visit us at usaglobaltv.com to learn about career and life-changing training and mentoring programs like the Listening Mentor. Subscribe to our newsletter to stay informed about our special programs and offers. Discover how you can become a guest on one of our shows or a host or producer of a USA Global TV and Radio show of your very own. That's USA Global TV and Radio, where the doctor is always in.
Hello, everyone, and welcome. Good evening, good morning, good afternoon, wherever you are in the world. We are thrilled to have you here on USA Global TV and Radio. Happy Hanukkah and happy holidays to everyone. We are just grateful to have this opportunity to come to you today with our show, which is Resume Whisperer, and our episode, which is live readings of resumes. We've got quite a show for you today. If you happen to be watching live and you'd like to have your resume reviewed, I'm sure the star of our show, Josef Stetter, would be happy to do that. We'll put some information in the comments that you can join in the show, hopefully. Okay, let's welcome the star of our show. He has helped over 11,000 people become gainfully employed. He is truly an expert when it comes to the art of negotiation, the art of writing a resume, the art of getting a salary that you're looking for, and really taking your career to the next level. Let's welcome Josef Stetter, the resume whisperer and corporate culturalist. Hello, welcome.
Hello. Excited to be here again, and happy Hanukkah to those who celebrate, and those that are starting to prepare for Christmas. I hope you're enjoying the holiday festivities and all the energy with that in terms of family, happiness,
yes,
peace, and so forth.
Peace on earth. That's what we would wish for sure. So, Josef, this is a special episode because we are giving people the opportunity to have their resume reviewed. And I know a number of people had expressed interest and said they would be here. So let's wait and see if they do join. But before we get into the topic for today, as I mentioned in the intro, you are an expert when it comes to really everything that is involved with getting gainful employment, changing employment, all of the nuances within that. So tell us a little bit about your expertise in this area, and especially for people who are interested in hiring you.
So I'm going to start with kind of giving you a more detailed background. So I always joke and say that I did not know what I want to do when I grew up. And so I personally switched careers over 9 times and jobs over 18 times. And when I switched careers, I also had to get recertified and show that I have transferable skills and that my knowledge is relevant to a new industry or a new employer. So I've gone through the pains and tribulations that most job seekers go through personally. In addition to that, I've been in recruiting for nearly 20 years. I've recruited for small to global companies, such as Apotex Pharmaceuticals, which is the largest manufacturer of generic drugs in the world, Deloitte & Touche, Tata Consulting Services, and several others as a whole. And being a generalist in recruiting has given me the opportunity to really understand what's going on in the market. Now, along the path of discovering what I meant to do and how I meant to do it, I was actually working for a company that owns multiple private colleges across Canada. And I was just disgusted by how bad the career services were. So I created a manual that will help students that graduate from these colleges get hired faster and better. And my VP was very intimidated that I could think for myself and threw me under the bus, and I ended up without a job. But I then took and published my first book. And since then, I've published 11 books. I've helped over 11,000 people. I've been featured in articles in magazines such as Disrupt Magazine, Bazinga, Newswire, Brains Magazine, and taken kind of a collective approach of how to do things differently, to stop being cookie cutter and look and sound exactly the same, to almost have autoresponder. I'm sure we've all had those kind of automated telemarketers that call you, and when the call connects, they don't know what to say, and then there's a little bit of a lag and there's a little bit of a delay. I find that a lot of people going to interviews do the same thing, and so I've built systems that allow people to understand, here's the value of being different, and here's why companies will be excited about hearing what you have to say. Even though you're saying the same thing, you're saying it better than anybody else.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for sharing that. That was a lot of great backgrounds. I also want to say that we do have something on the screen for those who are listening to the program as opposed to watching it. If you would like to have your resume reviewed live on the air, please do drop a comment here on social media. We are streaming to, I think, 10 different platforms right now. So go ahead and just drop your comment. We do have a guest backstage, ATN. I love that name. I think it means Steven. I'm not sure. We'll find out. But would you like to do the introduction of ATN, and then we'll bring ATN on?
It is a French name, yes. Again, we reached out to kind of our followers and said, anybody that would like to get feedback and have the opportunity to grow. I don't necessarily know him. He connected with me on LinkedIn because he saw my post. And so this is completely raw. This is not scripted. And it's basically designed to make sure that we can help him level up.
Fantastic.
And
Thank
I
you so much.
believe
Let's
he
welcome
works in
ATN
IT
to the
from his,
program.
LinkedIn
Hello.
profile.
Welcome.
Hello.
It's nice to have you with us here today. And it just goes to show
Bonjour,
you that
Etienne.
if someone is on social media, they can connect and collaborations can take place. So ATN, tell us a little bit about your background and what you're looking or hoping to achieve by being here today. Remember, this is a live show and it will be out there forever.
Well, I've been, since I was very young, I've been doing computer programming with .NET technology since the very early days of .NET. So I have over 15 years of experience, to over 20 years in .NET. But the past 15 years, I've been as an entrepreneur in personal growth, running my own business, coaching, healing, entirely different space. But now I'm looking to go back into the IT world, but I'm finding that it's been 13 years since I left my last job. Most of my skills are up to date. The problem is all front-end jobs require certain front-end technologies that I'm missing, and all the back-end jobs are missing the cloud computing piece. So all the things that are not .NET, there's some pieces missing, and there's a 13-year gap on my resume where I was an entrepreneur. So I'm looking at how to bridge that gap.
Excellent. Thank you so much for being here and for being so courageous to share your backgrounds when you don't know either of us. We really do appreciate you for doing that. So it sounds to me there's two issues, and then we'll go over to the expert. One is a block of time, 13 years specifically, that how are you going to account for that? And then the second is the skill sets that are being required. You have some in some areas and maybe some that you'd like to have to get this work, but you don't have. Is that correct?
Yeah, for the skills, I analyzed the situation. I think my fastest path is getting like a Azure Cloud Services certification, and so I'm studying that right now. I think that would be the fastest.
Excellent, thank you. Josef Stetter, the Resume Whisperer. Let's go over to you for your thoughts.
Okay, so yeah, a couple things. I'm going to kind of start by giving you feedback on your LinkedIn, since I'm not looking at your resume. And so the first thing that you need to know in terms of upgrading your skills, there's tons of free resources such as Coursera, where you can kind of start playing with some of the newer technologies. In the world of software development, there's a new technology or a new acronym for you to know, right? But what to your advantage, being self-employed, and this is where I would word things differently because you've been working as a consultant versus being self-employed. And companies like consultants because they tend to be specialized. So if you're specialized in .NET, that's better. Now, looking at your LinkedIn profile, the first thing that I noticed, like let's say in terms of open source projects that you've done, you kind of mentioned doing some of the technical skills that you use, but you didn't tell me what kind of projects you did. So I need to know what problems you solved as a developer in .NET. Even if you were self-employed, you built kind of better integration to the databases. You made things faster, more efficient. So I'm looking for the kind of what's the impact you made, or why did somebody hire you even as a consultant for, let's say, 13 years or almost 14 years, as an expert in .NET? So what are you able to deliver to me that, let's say, someone coming out of university cannot? So I want you to think about it in this way. When you tell your partner about your job, do you say, I did my job today? Yeah, you might have days like that. But I'm looking for those stories where you're like, you'll never guess. Like, I was working on this project where the entire, let's say, back end was a complete disaster. There was no communication, or it was what's known as legacy software. So I had to integrate uh, this, and this to be able to not only use the data but transfer it to more modern. And this was a project that was supposed to, let's say, take me 6 months. I finished it in 3 months. Or I created new dashboards that allowed for live information. So the more you can kind of focus on made money, saved money, increased efficiency, where you're giving me dollar figures, percentage figures, time figures. In your case, let's say, how big of a code are we talking? Are we talking like, a code that's 10,000 lines, or are we talking a code that's, significantly more than that? Did you create the documentation? Did you create kind of bridging software so that, for somebody who's not techie but needs to look at the information, it is in plain English? So your LinkedIn profile says, I know .NET and I know some of these technical things, but it hasn't told me kind of what projects you've done, what contributions you made that people, when they look at you as a .NET freelancer, go, wow, you are very talented, you're very skilled. And that's the first thing that's missing. So same thing with like being a life coach and kind of spiritual transformation, which is amazing and fantastic. Again, on your website, was it a like one tab website? Was it 10 tabs website? Did it integrate live videos? Did it, or other social medias? Did it integrate, e-commerce? Did it integrate any of that? Where the more specific you are on the work that you've done, the easier it is for me, because as both a kind of corporate culturist recruiter and resume whisperer, I'm looking at it from two heads. So I have nothing wrong against, and especially in your world, the fact that you've been employed for uh, uh, 10, 15 years, because it's very common in the IT world that a lot of developers prefer to be contractors because they can do a project for 3 months, do what is needed, go travel, come back. There's also the level where you can take on multiple projects or multiple clients at the same time. So that's not going to be held against you. What will be, if I was to look at your resume, I go, okay, .NET, you have a few technical words here. I don't know if you've worked in startups. I don't know if you've worked in banks. I don't know if you've done video game design. I have no knowledge of the significance of work or the significance of projects that you mentioned. So you don't necessarily need to mention who the clients were, You can just kind of say the types of projects that you did and results that signify that this kind of surpassed expectations. So that's the first part initially for it.
Can we go over to ATN and just get ATN's feedback? ATN, what are you thinking?
Yeah,
yes.
You say to put more specifics in it. I also have the problem that there's, well, first of all, should I focus on the things that I did over 15 years ago, or on more the things I've been doing recently, where like programming was not my main thing, but something I was doing more on the side? And there's so many different projects that I've been working on over time that there's so much information on the resume. So so now usually it should fit on 2 pages, but now I'm spreading it out on 3 pages. Should I add?
So pick the best one. So here's the thing, Etienne. If you're looking not to necessarily, sorry, Etienne, didn't mean to cut you off, Etienne. I apologize for that. So here's the thing to understand. If you're looking to be more, let's say, an analyst on technology versus the actual code, focus on the direction that you want to go in. And keep in mind, I don't need projects from when you first started your career. I only need projects that are significant or relevant. So I've switched careers 18 times. So let's say when I talk about my background, I don't talk about working in a call center because it's not relevant to my consulting roles, let's say. Right? If somebody says, our call center is not doing very well, I've built 2 call centers. So I will talk about building teams and building productivity or creating productivity rather than actually answering the phones, because the higher you go or the more experience you have, I don't care about early on in your career. I'm looking for the big wow project. I'm not talking about, okay, you know what, this was another project that's very similar to 3 other ones that I've done. So if you've done 3, 5 projects that are very similar, pick the one that's the most either you're proudest or had the biggest impact or had the biggest results. Because if you came in and kind of created something from scratch, that's a lot more significant than you coming in a team of, let's say, 5 or 10 people and doing a small piece of the bigger thing that needs to be done. So focus on the bigger things, focus on the relevant things, and then tell me why they matter, right? Like the fact that you work for CGI, CGI being such a big and reputable company gives you almost instant credibility, because not everybody gets into CGI. They're very meticulous on hiring the best of the best, right? But again, I would bring to the forefront the background that's more relevant in the direction that you want to go. So if you're looking to be more analyst, or you're looking to be more, let's say, like architect in the world of IT versus the actual code, tell me what you architected. Tell me how you designed it. Tell me how you created the technology stack, the level of technology stack, and then the duration of the project, kind of thing. Because that creates a conversation that is a lot more exciting for companies, because now they're honed in on, oh, wait, we need a project manager. So a project manager is not the developer himself. The project manager's skill set is to communicate with all the departments in plain English to say, or French, to say, here's what we need done. How long do you need to do it? What are the resources that you need to get there? And what can we expect in a week, in 2 weeks, in a month on this project, for example? Right? So I'm not looking for every technical. I'm looking yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. So with my resume as
go
a
ahead,
start,
Etienne.
like I would like cut off half of everything on my resume, just put half of the work experiences, but then kind of like expand on each one. And should I keep it to 2 pages or 3 pages?
So in IT, you're allowed to cheat a little bit more in terms of pages, because you might have like a third of a page just in technical skills, right? Now, what I like to do when I write resumes, I do what's called a semi-functional resume, not a chronological resume, which is kind of what your LinkedIn profile is, and not a functional resume, which is I did this, I did this, I did this, I did this. I don't care I did this, I didn't care I did this. I care the information that's around. So when I say semi-functional, I would have like I like to call it areas of expertise. In more basic resumes, they call it skills or technical skills, especially for the IT world. So these are all the technical words that you're comfortable with sharing to employers that you have a background in, right? Because you mentioned front end, you mentioned back end. The problem in North America right now is that in the world of development, there's probably 98 job titles with the word developer, because you have front end, back end, full stack, architect, engineer, Python, React, Java, .NET, C, C Sharp. So you can have job titles that start with all those skill sets. And then, especially if you get into open source and you get into things like NoSQL and Django and things like that, they're similar. So write the ones that you want. So even if you have a list of 60 words separated by an asterisk or a comma or something like that, right? Separate the words if you want to what are technologies that are database, what are frameworks, what are front end, what are back end. And then after you have the technology side of things, you want to do, and I love doing this, like a selected highlights, right, section. Now, these are not job specific. These are just, here's my top 5 or 7 contributions, results that I've produced. So these are the most significant projects that you've personally done to catch an employer's attention. The reality of the workforce today, Tian, is that most employers, in the IT world included, will spend between 8 and 30 seconds reading your resume, which means that they're looking at the top third to the top half of the first page of your resume. They're not reading page 2 and 3 at all. Okay? Now, the key words at the beginning, like the areas of expertise, that is for all of the job boards. That's for LinkedIn. That's for this, because those are the automated algorithm catching in terms of functionality, because the, let's say, applicant tracking systems score how many times technical words appear in your resume and how close to your name they appear. That's why I put them right at the top. The selected highlights, even if you did something 15 years ago, which was a huge project, because you're putting selected highlights, there's no date on when you did those projects. So you're presenting the best information, right? So think about it. When you go out on a date, usually on your first few dates, you don't come and list all your baggage. You kind of go, here's the best part of me. Here's my sense of humor. Here's how I'm romantic. Here's some of my interests or hobbies that we can kind of have conversation. You don't talk about the fact that you were cheated on a first date, because generally speaking, that first date is going to be a disaster if that's kind of what you do on a first date. So when you put the selected highlights right at the top of your resume, you're catching the employer's attention. So if they didn't read your resume in full to find out where in your career you did this important thing, that's on them. But most interviewers, the first interview, even to call you into a face-to-face interview or a Zoom interview nowadays, because you can work remotely, will focus on the selected highlights. Well, like, oh, okay, you talked about, let's say, producing, I'm just going to use here, a website and a blog, that has automations with Entreport. Can you give me more technical or specifics about that? And then it's your responsibility to expand on the tech stack, to expand on why this was such a successful site, or what made it kind of SEO, or what made it whatever version of language you're speaking to highlight how great you are. Right? So I've been in sales for nearly 20 years. I don't talk about my retail sales. I don't put it on my resume. It's irrelevant because I've led teams of 10. I've been responsible for millions of dollars in revenue. So me saying that I did retail is not relevant to what I'm trying to do, right? So it's not that you need to go and say each one. So like for spiritual transformation, that shouldn't, like, if that's not the direction that you're trying to go right now in terms of your next transition into back into the workforce, for example, whether as an employee or as a consultant, take it out. It's just taking up space for you, right? Stuff that you did 20 years ago, again, if it's relevant in terms of project, go. Yes, JACALYN, Dr. JACALYN.
Yes, sorry. I just had a question. I'm wondering for ATN. So depending on what role ATN is looking to apply for, ATN can have a few different resumes with a highlight reel that's specific to that work. Is that agreeable or not?
I disagree with that. To me, that's a very bad advice from other coaches to customize your resume for each job you're applying to. Because if you've written results in the correct language, right, you don't need to change your resume. So the difference between, let's say, a developer and a project manager is the developer is focused on the specific technology that you're using. A project manager focuses on the deliverables of the project, not the technology. Right? So depending on the direction, focus your results to that. So if you want to be more of a project manager, Etienne, because we started the conversation where you're upgrading some of your technical skills, you not necessarily want to do full technical, you want to be more of like project manager or some sort of analyst or some sort of that, focus your results to that. Focus your results to how they're the listening of that conversation.
So in the terms of the structure of the resume, so at the top you would put the highlights, then all the skill set would keep that. Should I move that to second page or leave that on the first page? And then how do you actually structure the resume?
Okay, so give me a second. I'm gonna pull off like a resume that I just did for a software developer, for example. Okay, and I'll show you as the one.
While he's doing that, ATN, just out of curiosity, are you looking for a job in a certain state, area, country? Are you looking to work remotely?
I'm Canadian, but I'm living in Mexico, so I'm a Canadian non-resident. And that's one thing. Technically, I believe I could work for U.S. companies, but in practice, every single company says that they will only hire people with that are living in the U.S. or with a U.S. work visa, and always also look for the time zone. I should be fine. But I found that all the U.S. companies will disqualify perfectly, but in Canada should be no problem.
Okay, thank you.
So Etienne, here's the thing. Dr. Jocelyn, do I have to share with you to upload it to the screen, or is there a share screen for me option here?
So if you go down to the bottom, you'll see present with a plus sign. Do you see present at the bottom?
I have mute, stop cam setting. Present, yes. So Etienne, here's what I'm going to say to you about that. You have to understand that nowadays, especially in software development world or IT, because there are so many remote work opportunities. Share screen, 1 second. And so I'm going to use this. So if you look here, we're going to hide the name so that can you guys see the screen? In terms of 1 second. I'm getting a message here. Sorry.
Yeah, we can see it on the screen now. It says areas of expertise.
Right. So here's where I'm going. So this is a front end developer that I wrote his resume, did his LinkedIn profile, and within 2 weeks he had 4 job offers. So areas of expertise, as I said to you, Etienne, these are the technical skills. These are the words that are associated with you. So in your case, it would be like MVC. I noticed it on your LinkedIn profile. You would have .NET here. If you've used GitHub or you've used any of these there, you would add it to your platform to kind of there. Then you see I have here selected achievements. So I'm just going to read, proud to have built a unique point of sale system for a retreat and venue company that saved the company $10,000 in vendor bills, right? The system was built from scratch with Laravel PHP framework, Vue.js, Bootstrap. This is the reiteration of the technical. The system used a unique UI to represent this. There, created a multi-tenant, multi-database SaaS that manages and suggests accommodations for people with disabilities, reducing entry and data errors by 50%. So if you have the technical first, Etienne, right at the top, and then you have the selected achievements. These are from your career. Now, if you notice here on the selected achievement, there is no company name mentioned. There's no date mentioned. It just says what it is that you did that's relevant to the jobs that you are potentially interested in. So optimize a client's customer processing program, written PHP 7 to achieve a multifold increase in efficiency with multi-threaded approach to facilities, buyers and sellers, exchange of information, and so forth. So your examples, so, as a freelancer, if you've done certain particular projects, here this person developed an ERP for procurement, HR monitoring, etc. So just using this example, Etienne, if you highlight this in your career background, I'm just going to stop sharing here so I can kind of see you. If you highlighting it with that, I don't care what you did 20 years ago. And most of the time, I'm not going to check where exactly you are because, again, if you're looking to get jobs in the US, because of the UX tax structure where you're a W-2 or you're a this, they will need to know that, but they don't need to know that while you're applying. Push comes to shove, there's always ways that if they feel that you're great, they can get you to register through an agency where you are contracted through the agency so that their taxes are cleaner, for example, right? So a company like Robert Half, which has a huge IT, or Randstad or Hayes, which are global companies known over the world, they can bypass some of the tax problems. So you work for, let's just say, Dell computers doing, you send Robert Half or Randstad or Hayes an invoice for your hours. They send it to Dell. Dell pays Robert Half or Randstad or Hayes, and they in turn pay you, right? And it eliminates the issues with tax because you're not an American or you're not physically on site, for example, right? So that's one way to go between it. In many cases, especially in your profession, most companies actually prefer that you're a contractor because then they can hire you for 3 months and say, okay, we don't need you anymore, right? And most, especially in your profession, already have set up, like, okay, do you have a registered tax number? So if you are Canadian and you have a HST number or PST number or the Quebec sales tax number, for example, as an independent consultant, you can invoice through that and collect the money. Nobody cares where you are if you are doing remote. And if you're worried about it, don't tell them that you're in Mexico. Say you're in Canada. right? Because it doesn't affect them if they know that there's a tax number associated with your consulting, where you're physically located.
Okay.
Does that make sense to you, Etienne?
Yep.
Any questions for me?
I do have to know of my status, because as a Canadian non-resident, it changes a few things. Like if I get employed, like it changes a few things about taxes and stuff. So, but it's just
again, but those are things where you can set up a corporation in Canada, headquartered in Quebec, for example, but have offices in Mexico. Relatively, all you need is a decent accountant to do that. It'll cost you about $500 Canadian to do it. It's not that complicated as a whole.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Right?
Any
questions
what other
of what I said about how to highlight how great you are? And
so technical skill, you don't even say my level of expertise in it. You just list all of the skills pretty quick. You put all the highlights, and what do you put in the rest of the resume?
So that's your actual jobs, where you can even copy some of your selected highlights right into those jobs, right? Because the algorithm of the job boards looks for that repetition throughout the resume to make sure that it's current and relevant, basically, right? But these will be the actual jobs. Now, if you've been a consultant, you can kind of give details on 2 or 3 projects that you've done as a consultant, and then just say what other types of projects you've done, but don't give me details if they're not as big or as relevant to the direction that you're trying to go in your career, but just to show that you have the background or the knowledge for it.
Okay, so the rest is kind of like
so you have all your education. So after you have your work experience, you have education. Sorry, I missed what you said, Etienne.
Yeah, so what you will do, the chronological resume I would fit it into the page 2 and 3, remove some of the stuff in it, focus on the most relevant job, and I would focus on rewriting the first page.
You don't even need to keep the full chronological. You can pick what you want to share on your resume and or your LinkedIn profile, because, like, for example, spiritual healer and .NET aren't the same conversation. So unless you're trying to get hired to do like coding in healing world for other healers, for example, where you can build stuff for them, take it out, for example, right? Because it's not relevant to you. Like, you know, given that we're both Canadian, like I've been an avid salsa dancer for 15 years. I've performed and competed, and I've gone many times to Montreal to actually dance. Montreal has 9 world champions that live there, for example, right? Now, even if I was helping the instructor, I'm not a certified instructor in there, but even if I was helping the instructor in dance classes and whatever, it has nothing to do with what I want to do as a career. It's a great conversation to build rapport, but it has nothing to do with me. So you can take out stuff that's not relevant. Like, I don't need it to be chronological. I don't need every detail. I need the best of the best. I need the highlight reel. So, like, Etienne, do you like sports?
Not really.
Okay, but if you don't watch a live sporting event, you can go on sports shows and watch the highlight reel. This is the most exciting moments from the games, right? Or the activities. Yeah. So make your resume the most exciting moments of your career, not everything. Right? No one's going to be upset, or no one's going to kind of say, I'm not hiring you because you didn't tell me what you did 25 years ago, or you didn't talk to me about this small project that nobody cares about, kind of thing, right? You need to present you in the best light possible. Most relevant information that employers care about. What are the results that you produced? What is their significance? And can you do it better than other people in your profession or in your background? That's what employers care about. If you worked at McDonald's when you were 15 years old until you're 20 years old, nobody cares. It has no relevance to you being in the tech world, for example.
Wow, I am learning a lot today.
Right?
This
and
is really
projects that were smaller,
fascinating.
where you just fixed, like, something was built, but there was mistakes or there was bugs in it, and you fixed it. If it's not a huge thing, don't mention it. Skip it. Use that as reinforcers once you get the interview, for example.
Okay, I have a lot to work with to.
Is there anything else that I can clarify for you or talk to you about? Sorry, I missed what you said, Etienne. You cut out for a second.
Okay. Yeah, I have a lot of information to rework on my resume. I think it answered the questions that I had. I got plenty of homework to do with that.
Excellent. Wow. Thank you so much for being here, Etienne, and sharing your story. It's been fascinating. I think there's a delay, right? Joseph, when you're speaking.
Understand. I wouldn't be worried about the fact that you've been independent for me. Okay. Sorry. Let me know when we're ready. Kind of thing.
Go ahead, Joseph.
So, Etienne, I was going to say this to you. Don't be worried about the fact that you were a consultant. Yeah. So, Etienne, don't be worried about the fact that you were a consultant for so many years. In tech world, especially, it's very common, right? Don't worry about saying everything. Focus on the most important. Here's the highlight reel. Here's what you need to know. Here's the difference that's going to happen if you hire me, right? There is, and I hope this kind of can help you.
Yeah, on the resume, I noticed that there was not any name on top of it. So where do you put the name and contact information at the end of it?
So I don't believe in putting the full address. I only put phone number and email. Now, if you're living in Mexico, you can use platforms like Magic Jack, where you can get a Canadian number again under that. Sometimes Telegram has things that you can set up a Canadian phone number or an American phone number or a 1-800 phone number for you and your email. They don't need your they don't need your address until they're ready to make you an offer. So that could be a way to minimize, I don't want to talk to you because you're living in Mexico right now.
Good. And you put that information at the end of the resume?
No, right at the top. Name, email, phone number. That's all you need.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Etienne, it's been an absolute pleasure having you here with us today. Anything you want to share before we say goodbye for now?
Well, it's been really great feedback about restructuring, and I'm pretty sure that at some point there's going to be a bridge between the IT world and the other work that I've been doing as a coach. But for now, I'm focusing on just on going back into IT, see where it leads after. But yeah, there's also I find that consulting gives more opportunity for learning different technologies versus if you getting a job, you're always doing the same thing over and over again, leaves not as much opportunity for learning the newer technologies. So yeah, we'll be looking into that.
So, Etienne, I'm just going to say this. I mean, there are plenty of very established health businesses, network marketing businesses that focus in health. And they all need better IT infrastructure. They all need better, uh, integration of ordering products to knowing what's going on with the health program, to helping people that are part of the network marketing know what events there is, what coaching there is, and so forth. So you'll be able to find roles like that on LinkedIn, on Indeed, on Glassdoor. I would also register with a few agencies like Robert Half, Randstad, Hayes, just to name a few. There's obviously a lot more than that because they already have relationships with employers, and so they can open some doors for you. And in many aspects, you can also select which industries you would like to work in. So if you are interested in health, in even the world of spirituality, there is so much right now going on with technology that you like. My friend Greg Hall, who's been watching, he does a voice scanner where I can call him from anywhere in the world. I say a few sentences, and within minutes, his machine can give me like a 60-page report of everything in my life and what's happening in my body and why. Like, let's say when I was younger, I had root canal and this muscle never healed and it's causing this and this to my body, which is fascinating. So understand that the level of technology for this is already out in market for you, Etienne. So it's really a model of you can take your tech skills and focus on how you can build this for health or how you can build this for even spiritual connections, because whether you're doing numerology or you're doing stars and moons and whatever form of that, there is a need for technology to be able to help coaches automate, help them to better do the reading as opposed to doing it manually, for example, right? So there's definitely a huge niche that, given that you are a coach yourself, can be a conversation that transitions where when you have some of the organizations or individuals that are bigger and more known in this world and have the money to pay for, build me a platform that does this, for example, or integrate this. So whether, even if they're doing various forms of tarot cards, angel cards, energy cards, I've gone to a few of them. I've done readings and stuff like that. You can still take the deck and you can still program it so that there's a sense of randomizer, so that even if somebody does a consult remotely around the world, the deck is spread out. They can kind of choose or click on something, and based on that, the cards would read. Because generally speaking, in the world of spirituality, the right cards will appear to that person.
One industry that I have that I have a lot of experience is forestry. What's interesting, I have experience in business, healing, forestry, IT, and these are four entirely different environments. People in forestry, they know nothing about business, they know nothing about healing. It's kind of interesting that I'm plugged into those various completely different sectors.
So Etienne, like Dr. Jason just reminded me, like we are kind of coming towards the end of the show. Feel free to connect with me on a more, if you want to use my services directly to help niche you and present you in the right way, right? But my focus today on this podcast was to kind of give you insights that you can go back now and go, oh wait, I could talk about this and this, and I'm confident that I can get that position and the salary that goes with it as a whole. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thanks for being here, ATN. Good luck with your search. Well, Joseph, that was very interesting. I learned quite a bit. And in addition to everything that you shared to help ATN and other people who are watching or listening, I love the fact that you are sort of a professional dancer for 15 years, salsa. That was fantastic. So, as we wrap up for today, if there are any people out there who are interested in having their resume read on the air, we are sharing right now across the bottom of the screen that they can drop a comment, and they can also reach out to you directly, or they can reach out to USA Global TV and Radio. What would you like to share as we close out, Joseph?
Again, this is just a very simple example where, the fear that he's been self-employed might harm him from being considered a great candidate. At the end of the day, if you put the correct information in the right place, you can get a lot of chances, and you can definitely level up. And my hope is that as this podcast progresses, more people will reach out to me individually, personally, and let me help them get there faster.
Excellent. I love the way that you just shared that. Thank you so much, Joseph. We'll look forward to seeing you again next week. All right. Thank you, everyone, for watching, whether you were on the live or the replay. We really do appreciate it. If you're joining us for the first time, we have about 43 different shows a week. You can go over to our website, which is usaglobaltv.com, and you can book your session. Our next show is coming right up, so please do stay tuned. We love to have you join us for all of our programs. You can find out more by going to our YouTube channel, which is USA Global TV and Radio, and you can subscribe so you can become aware of all of the different programming that we have. So as we're running a little late, we're going to skip on our sponsors, but we thank them dearly, and we'll be running their promotions later on. Thanks again for being here. Bye for now.